Hello friends, welcome to CEC live lectures. Dear friends, as you know that in our previous session we discussed a lot on database management system. So today also we are going to talk on one of the interesting components of database management systems. That is, we are going to talk on SQL. This is Introduction to Structured Query Language, and for the discussion on the topic we have with us in our studios Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj is Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. Dr. Bharadwaj is a prolific professor who believes in giving her best by sharing knowledge with the students, and through the live platform of CC, she always believes that she should communicate whatever she has gained through her academic experience. So let's welcome our guest Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, and let's try to understand what SQL, that is Structured Query Language, is. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
Good afternoon. In the past few lectures, we have been discussing a lot about database management systems, and in particular about the relational database model. We are well aware now that a large number of commercially available databases which are used for business as well as academic purposes are based on the relational database approach, wherein the data is organized into tables. We have had a detailed discussion on the same in the previous lectures also. Now in today's lecture, basically we are going to focus on one of the very important components of any relational database management system, which gives its power to the relational database management system, and that is the structured query language, which is commonly known as the SQL. Now, SQL is basically a non-procedural query language which is used for all kinds of data related activities within a relational database management system. Now, when I say it is a non-procedural language, I mean that it specifies what is to be done without the need for the programmer or the database administrator or designer to specify how it is to be done. Unlike other languages, like for example you have C or C++ or any other high level language, where you not just specify what is to be done, but you also give in detail how that particular task is to be done. SQL only specifies what is to be done, and how that objective or how that command is to be executed is not explained. That is the job of the relational database management system, or the RDBMS, to implement or to execute that SQL statement or SQL command which has been given by the user. So the most important thing to remember before we begin with SQL is that it is a non-procedural language. Second, it is basically a standardized language, that is, it is the same SQL commands can be used over different RDBMS packages with minor variations. So basically it is an ANSI standard. ANSI stands for American National Standards Institute. So SQL is standardized by the ANSI, and therefore it is a very standardized, and it's a very similar kind of language across platforms. Therefore, if you are aware or if you are versed with SQL working in an Access environment, then you can easily work on SQL in any other environment also. So the second point is that SQL is a non-procedural and standardized language. Then another important point, practical point of view, is that it is not case sensitive. That is, when you are writing the SQL commands, you need not bother about the case. Uppercase or lowercase makes no difference in case of SQL commands. Another important point to remember when you are working with SQL statements is that you can work on all types of database related activities with an SQL. So basically SQL language covers two types of commands or two types of languages we can say are covered in SQL. One is the data definition language, which is commonly called as the DDL commands. In these commands, in the data definition language commands, the basic point or the basic things that the user wants to do is create a table or create a view or create an index or delete a table from the database or alter the structure of the existing table. The second category of commands are data manipulation commands or the DML. In case of data manipulation commands, all the activities related to changing the data within the table or altering the data within the table, updating, inserting the data inside the table, retrieving the data from the table, deleting specific rows from a table, all these kinds of commands are part of the data manipulation language. So, in today's lecture we will try and cover as many of these commands as possible. So, to begin with, first thing is we will talk about what are the different types of data definition language commands, and henceforth we will be talking about the data manipulation commands. So, before we actually begin with the data definition commands, we should talk about how it is a non-procedural language and different dialects exist in case of SQL, and ANSI has prescribed a standardized version for the SQL language. Now, in data definition commands, so in the simplest data environment also, you need some specific commands for creating the tables, etc. So, those commands we will be discussing here. So, the first task that is done before anything is beginning in the database is creation of the database. So, first is that you create the database structure and then you create tables that will hold the database or the tables that will hold the data within the database. Now, a table is basically a two-dimensional structure, as we have already discussed, which is composed of columns, and columns represent the attributes or the properties, and the rows, they represent the entity instance. Now, each row represents one single entity and the complete table represents an entity set. Each table is uniquely identified by its name, which is known as the table name. So, basically this whole thing is known as the table schema, or the word schema is given to this. So, schema means the name of the table and its attributes, and the primary attribute or the primary key attribute is generally shown as the underline in case of database schemas. So, you can see here in this example also that this represents a table. The name of the table is product. The attributes of the table are P-name, price, category and manufacturer, and then you have 4 rows in these tables. So, each of these rows represents one instance of the table. For all purposes today we are going to take this table as an example for writing the different SQL commands. So, you can note down the structure of this table. It is product, product name, its price, its manufacturer and the category. Now, basically we are saying that it is a two-dimensional structure, and when you are creating a table you have to specify the name of the table and you have to specify the attributes inside the table or the properties about that particular instance which are going to hold the data inside the table. Now, who decides which attributes are to be stored in the table? This is decided by the database designer or the database administrator in consultation with the end user and the people for whom the database is going to be designed. So, that person that decides what are the different attributes of the different entities within the database. So, if the table will then comprise of that many attributes as there are in the table as they have been agreed upon. So, now each attribute inside a table will have a particular data type. Data type here means what type of data will it store, like it can be a number. Now, within the number also it can have several formats, like it can be a number, it can be an integer, it can be a small integer or it can be a decimal integer. Then if you have text type of data, then that can be a character data with a specified length, L here means length, or it can be varchar, that is a variable length character, or it can be a varchar 2, so which will not leave spaces. Then we can also have data of type date, like for example date of birth, date of purchase, etc. For that we can have date type of data. Besides this also there are other types of data, like you have memo. In case your text is exceeding the limit of 255 characters, then you can have a memo type of data, or you can have different other types of data, like for currency you can have a currency type of data, and so on and so forth. So basically SQL provides a wide range of data types which are supported by maximum number of RDBMSs. So it allows you to store data in whichever format you want to store it in your tables. So basically when you create a table structure, you specify what is the name of the table, and you make sure that you use one line per attribute for definition. Use spaces to line up the attribute characteristics and constraints, and table and attribute names are generally capitalized. Again, I would like to reiterate that it is not case sensitive, but if you are using capital letters or uppercase letters for naming your tables, then you must stick to that notation throughout writing the queries or throughout your programming of the database. Besides this, when tables are created, you specify the attributes and the type of data that attribute will hold. You also specify a number of constraints that you want that attribute to follow. For example, if you do not want that the name attribute in the product should be left blank, then you will give a constraint as not null. Similarly, you can give other constraint also, like it cannot be empty, you can give a default value, you can give a check value. For example, you want to validate that the date of or the price of any item cannot be less than 1. So you can give this kind of a check also while you are creating the table. So all types of constraints or checks can be applied to the data while the table is being designed. Then basically RDBMS will help you create that table, and it will store some place in the database for that table, and all referential integrity constraints for foreign keys will be specified. Primary key attributes contain both not null and unique specification, and all the commands will end with a semicolon. So basically this is a theoretical perspective of how a table is created. So first thing is that you give a name to the table, you name the attributes, you specify the data type, you give any constraints like unique or not null or any kinds of check that you want, and then finally you create or you write the command and you terminate the command by putting a semicolon. So then when you will execute the command, the table will be created. So this command is known as the create table command. So you will write create table, table name, and then you will write the list of columns or the list of attributes along with the data types, and then you will specify if any constraints are there. Referential integrity constraints are required in some versions of SQL and may not be required in some other versions. So depending upon which RDBMS package is being used, you have to look for these minor kind of verifications in your SQL syntax. So different SQL constraints that are used in case of attributes are not null constraint, which ensures that the column does not accept null values. Unique constraint, which ensures that all values in the column are unique. Default constraint assigns a default value to the attribute when the row is added. Check will validate the data when the attribute is added to it. So basically these are the different types of checks which you can apply to the data using at the time of creation of the table. Now after the table has been created using the create table command, there are some other commands of data definition which may be used or which may be needed by the user. For example, if you want to change the structure of the table which has already been created, the command that you use is the alter table command. So you use the alter table command and then you give different options depending on what type of change you want to make to the table. For example, if you want to add columns to the table, you will use the add option. If you want to modify the structure of the column or if you want to change the data type in the column, you will use the modify, and if you want to drop any column or if you want to delete any column from the table, then you will use the drop. So alter table command is basically a data definition command which is used to change the structure of the table or change the nature of the columns in the table. For example, in case of modify command, if you want to change the data type of a column from character to varchar, then you will write alter table, table name, and you will write the name of the column. Now there is an important point to look for. For instance, we are saying that these commands will be used for a table which has already been created. Now if there is data in the column that you want to modify, then in case of Oracle, SQL will not allow you to make any changes to a column where data has been added. In some other versions of other RDBMS SQLs, it may allow you to make changes or to alter the data type if the existing values in the column are in consonance with the new data type. But if in case they are not matching, then this kind of alter command will not work. So this kind of in the small implications of the command have to be dealt with when you are using with the alter table modify command. So alter can be used to change the data type of an object. It can be done for unless the column is empty, it cannot be done in Oracle as I just said. So it is used to change the data characteristics, and in some cases it is allowed if it does not alter the data type of the existing fields. If you want to add a column to an existing table, for example, if you want to add a column email to an existing table, then the command to add is you use alter table command and you use add, and which you will not include the not null clause for the new column. So new columns can also be added using the alter table command in SQL. Then if you want to drop a column in the table or from the table you want to drop a column, then the command for that is alter table and drop column and the name of the column. However, some RDBMSs impose restrictions on the deletion of an attribute also. For example, if this attribute is part of a relationship, then the RDBMS may not allow the deletion of this column as it is a part of the relationship, or if it is a part of the key, even then that column cannot be dropped from the table. In that case, you first need to modify the structure of the table using the modify command of the alter table, and then after that only you can make those kinds of changes to your table. So if you want to delete a table from the database, completely delete a table, then the syntax is drop table and you give the name of the table. So drop table, name of the table, for example, if the name of the table is product, so you write drop table product. So in that case the table will completely be deleted from the database and all the data also will be deleted. So it is a very important command. Drop table command must be used with a lot of caution, because data along with the table along with all the data in it will be deleted by the execution of this command. So we have seen these are all the data definition language commands that we use. Now the next set of commands that are used in SQL is the data manipulation commands. Now, data manipulation commands can be used for various purposes like adding rows to a table, listing the rows from a table, updating the rows in a table, deleting some of the rows in the table, and inserting table rows with a select subquery, that is inserting rows in one table which actually can be copied from another table. If two tables have some common attributes, then you can copy the data from one table to the other table using the insert table command. So, the first command that we run in data manipulation command is to insert rows to a given table. Now, insert table or insert rows to a table, you use the command insert into table name, values, and you give the list of values that you want to insert. Now, in this case, there are different variations which can be used along with this. For example, you can see here the command is insert into purchase. Purchase is the name of the table which has 4 columns, and the names of the columns have been specified along with the table name, that is buyer, seller, product and store. Then you give the keyword values, and then you give the values for the data in each of these. So, this type of command can be used to insert rows into the table. Now, there is one important point to remember here. For instance, if you remember the sequence of the columns in the table, then in that case you need not specify the names of the columns along with the name of the table. You can simply write insert into table name, values and the list of values. But since the columns in the table are in no particular order and the user may likely not to remember the sequence of the columns, then in that case it is safe to write the name of the column along with the name of the table, so that this kind of mapping can easily be done by the RDBMS itself. So, the right column will be inserted along with the column name that has been specified along with the table name. So, with this a row or a tuple will be added. Important thing to remember here is that all integrity constraints and referential integrity constraints that have been specified with the create table command to create the table will be checked while the row is being enforced or while the row is being inserted into the table by the RDBMS itself. So, after the rows are added, some important points to remember while using the insert table command are that the entries between the different columns, they should be separated by commas, the parenthesis must be used, not null values must only be entered. If a null value is to be entered in any of the columns, then that is to be taken care of. So, characters and date values are entered between apostrophes, no apostrophes are used for numbers, and they are all separated by commas, and a value is required for each. If you want to use null or if you want to specify unknown values, you use the keyword null for that. If you do not know what value to put, then you put the word null for that. And for all text and date, you put apostrophes or you put it in quotes, and numbers are not put into quotes values. Then the next command, which is the most common and popular command used with SQL, is the data retrieval command or the select command. Now, the select command is basically used to list the contents of a table. So, the syntax of the select command is select the names of the columns from the name of the table. So, column list here represents one or more attributes separated by commas, and asterisk can be used as wildcard character to list all the attributes. So, if you want to list a specific attribute from the table, you write the name of those attributes, but if you want to find out all the attributes of the given table, then you will write select star from table name. In that case, all the attributes will be given. Now, this is a very simple form of the select statement which is rarely required and rarely used. The select statement is used in much complicated and much advanced scenarios, as is shown in the following slides. So basically the next data manipulation command that we are doing is the update table command. Now the update table command is used to modify the data in a table. Now the syntax is update table name set column name is equal to expression. You can set more than one column using the same command and you give a condition. So if more than one attribute is to be updated, you can separate them with the help of commas. So an example of the update command, as you can see here, is update product. Product is the name of the table. You write set price is equal to price upon 2. So the value of price will be replaced by half the price, where date is another attribute inside the table, is given a specific date. So same way you can update any number of rows using the update command in a single go. So you just specify the name of the table, the name of the column which is to be set, and the condition, if there is any condition that you want to check, then also. For instance, if you have a student table and you want to give a discount of fees to all the students whose marks are more than 90%. So you write update student table set fees is equal to 0 where marks are greater than equal to 90%. So this will automatically set the marks of the fees of all those students to 0. So update command can be used to set any number of columns which follow a specific criteria to a given set of values. So we shall be continuing with the next portion of the lecture in a short while. Thank you.
With this note, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so very much for giving us this session on SQL. And dear friends, there is a lot more for you. So you're requested to be with us. We are back after a short break. Thank you. Hello friends, welcome back to this session. Friends, as you know that today we are talking on SQL, that is Structured Query Language. And for the discussion on the topic, we have with us in our studios Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj. Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj is Assistant Professor in Department of Computer Science, Jesus and Mary College, University of Delhi. So friends, we have a prolific expert with us who is delivering us with ample of knowledge. She is sharing experiences of through all what she has learned. So welcome our guest, Dr. Pavitra Bharadwaj, and let's try to understand more about SQL. Hello ma'am, welcome to the lecture.
So in continuation with our discussion on data manipulation commands, we were talking about how data can be inserted into a table, and we have also seen how we can update or we can modify the data which is there inside a table. Now the next thing that is done generally with data inside the tables is deletion of specific rows. So if you want to delete specific records from a table, or if you want to delete specific rows from a table, the command for that is delete command. So you use the command delete from name of the table, and you give the condition where you want to specify which rows from the table are to be deleted. So you will write delete from table name and where condition. If you will not specify, in the where clause, then all the records or all the tuples from the table will get deleted, but still the structure of the table will remain. I once again repeat that if you want to delete all the rows from a table, you simply write delete from table name. If you want to delete specific rows, then you will have to give the condition to filter the rows that you want to delete. And if you are deleting all the rows from the table using the command delete from table name, in that case all the rows or all the data from the table will be deleted, but the structure of the table will remain. If you want to delete this complete table from the database, then as you remember, we will use the drop table. So drop table deletes the table along with the data. Delete from table name will delete all the tuples, but still the structure of the table will remain. And delete from table name with a where condition will delete the table rows, all the rows which are filtered by the where, and the rest of the rows will remain. So let us see the condition and how you specify. So you write delete from table name where, and you give a condition list. As you can see here, the where clause is given in square brackets, which means that it is optional. So if you do not specify, then all rows from the specified table will be deleted. This is an example of deletion. So you write delete from purchase. Purchase is the name of the table, where seller is Joe and product is Brooklyn Bridge. So you can see here all the rows where the seller will be Joe and the product will be Brooklyn Bridge will be deleted from the table purchase. Now there is another important point which one needs to remember here, that for instance there are multiple rows where seller is Joe and the product is Brooklyn Bridge, then all these rows will be deleted using this single command. Even if you want to delete one row, but that is a limitation of the SQL. That is, all the rows that will be filtered with the command, with the where clause, all of them will be deleted. You cannot further restrict which rows to remain. So all the rows that agree to this condition will be deleted using a single command. So you cannot select tuple by tuple, deletion cannot be done. In one go all the rows will be deleted. So this is an important thing to remember while you are using the delete command. Now sometimes you want to insert rows into a table from another row. That is, there are two tables which have some common attributes. So you want to insert table rows from, in that case you can use a select subquery. So this will insert multiple rows from another table, that is another source table. You can insert multiple rows. So you first write insert into table name, that is the name of the table where you want to insert, and then you write select list of columns from the other table. So in this case what you are using is an embedded SQL select statement. A nested query is being used to select a few columns from a given table and insert those values into another table. So from the source table you fetch the data using the select, and then you insert them into another table or the host table using the insert. So you will use insert into table name, and then you will use the select subquery. Now there are several restrictions while you are using the select clause. See, we have seen that the select is a simple clause where you use select from, but if you want to select only a given number of rows or only specific rows from the table, then what you have to use is a partial table contents have to be selected. Then you need to place restrictions on the rows to be included in the output. So then you will use the where clause. So in the where clause what you use is a condition. So you write select the list of the columns from, and then you give the where clause. So in the where clause you will specify the conditions or the restrictions on one or more than one columns, according to which the data will be fetched from the given table. So you can see here an example is given. You write select P name, price, manufacturer. So these are the columns that you want to fetch from product, where you specify price is greater than 100. So this is the condition which you are specifying, that price is greater than 100. Now when you are selecting rows with conditional restrictions, you can use you can use a number of symbols like equal to, less than equal to, greater than, greater than equal to, not equal to, etc. So a number of restrictions can be used while you are specifying the select, while you are specifying the different conditions in the where clause. Now another arithmetic operators can also be used while you are using the where clause. Different arithmetic operators like plus, minus, etc. and the rules of precedence are same as they are in the mathematics. So you have add, subtract, multiply, divide and the raised to the power operator. So here we can see that in case of select statement you are using the logical operators like less than, greater than. You can also use the arithmetic operator. Besides this also there are a number of operators that are used with select statement for different types of comparisons. Like if you want to compare text type of data or characters, then in that case you can use different types of operators, or these are known as special operators. These operators are like between which is used to check whether attribute value is within a range or not. Is null is used to check whether an attribute value is null or not. Then you can use the like operator. Like is a very important operator which is used for pattern matching or string matching, where you use, like in this example it has been used, select star from table name, where p name like percent gizmo percent. Now in this case you must understand a few things. For example, if you want to find out the names of the students that begin with the letter A, so in that case what you need is to compare is only the first character. So you will write select P name or student name from student table, where student name like, and then you write A star or A percent. A star means that the first character of the name has to be A, and that can be followed by any character any number of times. So in this case that star or percent that you are using is known as the wildcard character. So with the like operator you can use this. Similarly in this example which we have used, so we are writing where p name like percent gizmo percent. This means that the word gizmo should appear anywhere in the product name, and any number of characters ahead or behind it is acceptable. So this kind of a operator is very commonly used for searching of data from a database or from a table, where you want to find out, for instance, all the people who are living in Delhi. So you will write address like star Delhi star. So anywhere in the address if the word Delhi is coming, those names can be filtered. So the like operator is a very important operator which is used. Similarly, there is another operator between. So between is very importantly used when you want to compare dates. When you want to know the people who were born, for example, whose date of birth is between 1990 to 2010. So you can simply write where date of birth is between this date to this date. So between operator is also used for finding out the values within a specific range of values. So between is used, and not null can be used to find out the values which are provided. Is null can be used to find out the values which have been left blank or which have not been specified. Besides this, there is another operator called in. In case of in operator, you specify a list of values to be provided, and if those values are there in the list of values, then the comparison will return a true. So it is used to check whether the attribute value matches any value within a list of values that has been given. Exists means it is used to check if the subquery returns any rows or not. If in case of in you provide a subquery, so for instance you will write select star from table name where attribute in, and then you give another subquery or another select statement. We will be talking about subqueries in the later part of the lecture. Then the select statement can be used for eliminating duplicate values. For instance, you can see here we are using select and the keyword distinct has been used here. So you write select distinct category from product. So you can see that you get only unique values for the category, whereas in the lower portion you can see if you write select category from product, then you can get non-unique values also. So if you have 10 products of the same category, then it will give you the category 10 times. But if you use the word distinct, then it will eliminate the duplicate values and it will only give you single non-duplicate values. So select clause distinct keyword with the select clause gives you only the non-duplicate values. Then we have some advanced functions of SQL queries, like it provides useful functions like count to find out the maximum, minimum and average values. So it allows users to limit queries to only those entries which have no duplicates. Entries without duplicates can be grouped. So these functions are known as aggregate functions. Aggregate function means a function which will accept multiple values but will give a single value as the result. For instance, count, which will give you the number of rows containing null values. Min will give you the minimum attribute value encountered in a given column. Max will give you the maximum value in a given column. Sum will give you the sum of all the values in a given column. AVG will give you the average of all the values in a given column. So basically aggregate functions will take up all the values in a column and they will give you the single value inside a column. So now we are going to see how aggregate functions are used to find out this kind of values from a given set of values in a column. So you can see here in this example, you use the aggregate function count. So you write select count and you say distinct code from product. So in this case we are counting only the non-duplicate code. So we are using the word distinct and count. So it returns the total number of V codes which are non-duplicate. Similarly, you can find out count star will return the total number of rows within the column which specify the specific condition. You can see in the third portion it says select count star from product where price is less than equal to 10. So in this case it will give you all the total number of rows from the table product where price is less than equal to 10, or it's any condition that has been specified in the where clause. So with the count function you can specify count and the name of the column, or if you want to count all the rows in a given table you will write count star. If you want to find out the rows which are following the given condition, then you will write count star from table name where condition. And if you want to count only the non-duplicate values, then you will use the word distinct. So you will write select count distinct and the name of the column that you want to count. Similarly, other functions are also used, like sum function. For instance, you can see here in this case max function is used. So max will return the maximum value, min will return the minimum value, and if you want to find out, for instance in the third case, if you are given a condition where you want to find out the details of the product which has the maximum price, in that case what you need is a subquery. So the subquery will fetch you the maximum price as you can see here, and then you compare the price of the tuple with the maximum price. So you write select P code description and price from product where price is equal to, and then you write a nested select statement where you find out the maximum price using select max price from product. So in the first thing, the subquery will execute, it will find out select max price from product will give you the value of the maximum price, and then this value of the maximum price will be compared with the price column in the table, and then the details of that row will be given where the price matches. So this way you will get the details of the product whose price is equal to the maximum price or whose price is the maximum. Then you can find out the sum. For example, if you want to find out the sum of the customer balance from the table, so you simply write select sum customer balance, and you can also give an alias to it, like you have given here sum customer balance as total balance from table name. So instead of sum of customer balance, in the result you can see the word total balance has been returned. So this is known as giving or specifying as an alias, so that the result looks better and it makes more sense. Similarly, you can also see that calculations can be made in the select statement, like you can see here you are finding out the product of quantity and price, and then you are finding out the total or the sum of the product in price into quantity. So multiple operators can be used in case with the select statement, and you can sum those values which you get from the product also. So we are seeing that basically the select statement is a very flexible statement, and it allows a lot of manipulation and a lot of filtering can be achieved using the different functions or different clauses that are available with the select statement. You can also order your data, or you can also order the result of a select statement by the order by clause. So you can write order by, name of the column that you want to order the data by, and you can write ascending or descending. Ascending is the default, so you don't need to write, you can simply write select star from product order by price. So it will come in ascending order. If you want the result to be shown in descending order, then you write order by column name and the word DESC for descending. So in that case the result will be shown in descending order of the column that you have specified. The next important part of the select statement is grouping and aggregation. Grouping and aggregation means that if you want to find out the product total or the price of the sum of price based on product or based on a specific group, then you write purchase. For example, you are writing here select the names of the column and an aggregate function from table name, you give a condition and then you write the attribute on which you want to group it. So, in this case the data will first be grouped and then you will get the result. Now, important point to remember here is that you only use the group by clause when you are using an aggregate function in the select statement. Like for example, if you are using average, max, min, sum or count in the select statement, only then you can use the group by clause in the given select command. Otherwise, this is not going to work, it is going to give an error. So, group by clause is only used along with aggregate functions. So, group by is a very important clause because this will help you create groups of rows or groups of tuples based on a common attribute, and then you can find out the aggregate value or aggregate sum or average of the given value on which you are grouping the data. Now, in case of group by clause, it is also important to understand how the data is grouped. So, the first thing that is done is that the calculation of the from and where clauses is done. So, first you find out the result from the where clause, then you group by the attributes using the group by clause, and after that the select clause is worked. So, the first statement that is executed is the from and the where clause, then the group by is done, and after that you project the columns or you give out the data that has been specified in the select clause. So, in this example now we can see how this is going to work. For example, in the table you see here the first clause that is working is the from and where group by clause. So, here you can see from the table the where clause which specifies that the date has been specified as 1st October. So, all the products whose date is after 1st October are coming here. So, the where clause has executed. Then you see the product are grouped or the table data has been grouped according to the product, because in the group by clause we had said group by product. So, the data has been grouped according to the product. After this, after the grouping has been done and after the where clause has been executed, then the select statement is going to work. So, then you can see in the third part of this command, what you see is that the select clause is working. So, you can see here that the products have been grouped and the where clause has executed. After that, what you see is the total sales are calculated on the based on this grouped data. So, you can see here total sales are calculated by multiplying price into quantity. So, in the lower portion you can see the query has been written select product and total sales. Now, what is total sales? It is the sum of price and quantity. From the table is purchase, of course, where clause has been specified and it has been grouped into group by product. So, when the grouping has been done and then you see that according to the grouping the sum is calculated by multiplying the price and quantity, and then you get the total sales. So, this is a very important function which specifies how data can be grouped to find out aggregates of values inside this. The same function group by clause can be used in multiple situations, like for example, if it is a customer table and you want to find out the total balance in the various accounts, then you can group it by, or if you want the total dues to a student, or different scenarios based on the queries or based on the database structure that you have, you group the data inside the table and then you calculate it. So, when you have a group by clause, you can also compare it with a nested SQL or a nested select statement also. As you can see here, we are seeing in the first part we are using a group by clause. If you want to use a nested query, then that query has also been specified here. But you see here that the nested query is much more complicated than the group by clause which is used. So, a group by clause is a much simpler way of grouping the data within a table and then calculating the aggregate values. If you see here in the next example also, you can see that you can find out the maximum quantity, you can find out say the sum of all the prices of the product using the multiple functions can be used with a single group by clause, but you cannot use a group by clause without having any single aggregate function in your select statement. So, we have seen today that different clauses are used along with the select statement like the from, where, order by, group by, and we have also seen the different operators that you can use with the where clause. Along with this, we have seen some basic data definition language commands also. There are a few more commands like the having clause etc., which can also be put along with the group by clause. So, the having clause will which will filter the data on the grouped data or the data which is having an aggregate function. So, similarly different clauses are there, but the select statement in the SQL is a very important statement for retrieval of data from all sorts of tables or from all sorts of tuples that are present. So, with this we come to an end of today's introduction to structured query language. Thank you.
With this note, thank you ma'am, thank you so very much for giving us this productive session, and friends, we believe that your feedbacks are important for us, as well as if you have any questions which you feel that are required to be answered, then do write to us at info.cec@nic.in. This is the ID where you can put on your comments regarding the lecture, and the lecture is going to be uploaded on YouTube soon. So keep watching us, keep writing us. We would be meeting again soon. Till then, take care. Goodbye. Thank you ma'am. Thank you so much.